Hello everyone, this is Noah and John, and we are from UrbanDigs. We are talking Manhattan. We got a good one for you today. This is a live podcast. We got Ryan Serhant, power broker, $1 million listing star from Nest Seekers. We got Jason Haber of Warburg Realty. We got Neil Garfinkel, REBNY General Counsel. You do not want to miss this one. It's got a lot of great tidbits. We're going to start out with what's going on in the Manhattan markets right now. Let's begin with Ryan and get right into it.
Basically the biggest issue that we're running into across all price points. Like, we've got properties that are under $1 million that are sitting. We've got properties that are over $10 million that are sitting. I don't think it is kind of segregated to any one individual price point anymore. And it's not even just being the cheapest thing on the block. You know, we have properties in the city now that are so cheap, that are cheaper than any comps out there that are still sitting there.
Active comps, you mean?
Active comps, yeah,
right.
Active comps and sold comps. I think that there's a general unease in the marketplace to move forward, and we've seen this before. Like, I don't think it's a weird thing. I think it just is what it is. And I think buyers will come back to pulling the trigger relatively pretty quickly, and we've seen that before too, and all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, the market's back, it's strong. But we all kind of have to buckle down and bear with it and make smart decisions and work with our clients to excite them if they're buyers that this is an amazing time to purchase real estate, and work with our sellers through whatever situation they might be in. And I think we're going to see a lot of inventory come off the market because sellers are going to decide not to sell.
Right.
And we'll see a lot of new comps being set that are not great because there's a lot of sellers out there who really need to sell. And then once that kind of levels out, we'll go back to a market that I honestly didn't like as much, which is more like this. And then you have people who are really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of appreciate, I don't know what you guys think, like, I appreciate the market that we're in now. I get to walk around with buyers and say, you get to actually buy something you like, and you get to get a great deal, and you get to negotiate, and it won't be gone tomorrow.
Right.
Like, that's great. On the flip side, the seller conversation is not so great, but it's always, it's always going to be something.
Yeah, I feel like buyers, they pull the trigger when the leverage is not in their favor. So like in 2013, 2014, 2015, kind of the golden years, that tougher market that you're saying where we're rising like that, they were pulling the trigger left and right. Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna speak up a little bit. I was basically saying how buyers they do not pull the trigger in weak markets, even though they have the leverage. Right? Buyers have options. They have negotiability. They have one-on-one discussions right now. In 2013, 2014, and 2015, they did not have that. They had no options. There was bidding wars left and right. Yet buyers were pulling the trigger. So why are buyers not pulling the trigger today? I mean, any thoughts on that?
People want what other people want. Like, you always want what you can't have across the board. If it's too available, just like dating. Then you're like, I don't know if I want that. I'm going to keep shopping, and it doesn't change. So when the market is tight and there's not a lot of inventory, people overpay. People actually feel good about it.
Right.
Like, people like spending money, and but it's hard if they're seeing over and over the same listings with price reductions, because then there's no urgency, and then interest rates are too low. And the interest rate conversation is a whole separate one. But I don't know what you think, but low interest rates since 2008 presents absolutely no urgency for anyone to do anything. What am I supposed to say? Oh, interest rates are low, lock in your rate. Okay, great, but they're going lower.
Yeah.
People are nervous about next year. We need things to push people to move forward, to expand their life, to do more, and that's just not happening right now.
For all the reasons that Ryan just said, there's this battle going on between buyers and sellers that reminds me a lot of, if you've seen The Godfather, there's a scene where Clemenza says that the wars between families are good because it gets rid of all the bad blood. And that's sort of what's happening right now, except the market looks a lot like Sonny on the Causeway. And that's sort of what a lot of people who haven't seen The Godfather are like, what the fuck?
Bloody, very bloody.
Very bloody.
And so that's what we're seeing out there right now, is this disconnect between sellers that say things, I'm sure they say it to Ryan, they say it to me, I'm not giving it away.
Yeah.
Right? And then you have buyers that they all want a trophy right now because they think they want to get the deal of a lifetime.
Yeah.
And you have that disconnect and struggle between the two.
Right.
But just to follow up on your metaphor, so at the end of the day, right, you have Sonny lying there dead, right? But at the end of the day, someone's walking away with a cannoli. What's that cannoli in this market? What are you walking away with? It's a good sign.
No, I mean, listen, historically, if you buy when the market is down, you win. right? You can never, the problem is everyone wants to be the guy or girl who buys at the very, 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 very bottom, right? So you have buyers out there who say, I'm not buying right now. Are you crazy? The market's going down. And then when the market starts to come up, they say, I'm not buying now. Are you crazy? The market's going back up. So you can't time it perfectly. It is impossible. No matter how smart you are, no matter what hedge fund you work at, no matter how many fancy degrees you have, you cannot time the very bottom. But just know, if you buy during that period, you're going to do fine.
Yeah.
Well, I could speak from personal experience. I just sold and bought a house. I hadn't sold a house or bought a house in 20 plus years, but we priced it right, so we sold. We live in Great Neck, and the place that we bought had 140 units, a gated community. There were 2 for sale. One was really, we overpaid, but I wanted it. So I knew I was overpaying, but
Right.
there was nothing else there. So it's interesting because there was lots of inventory other places, but this is where we wanted to live. So.
Right.
But we also were able to sell in a marketplace where there's a lot of inventory right now because we were ready to sell.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of just basic need, those buyers out there that are saying, I'm waiting for the market to come down a little more to pull the trigger. I mean, why don't we just tell them to just, all right, bid 5% lower, bid 10% lower, Yep.
Can you guys hear me now?
Okay, sorry.
If you heard the other microphone I tried, you would know why I'm not using a microphone. Basically, what I'm saying here is that buyers right now they're scared, right? They don't want to buy a depreciating asset, and they think the market's going down. And this market is driven by perception. It's driven by the buyers. It's all about the bids. It's all about the buyers. They make our marketplace. And if the buyer sees confusion and cloudiness and unaffordability because of all the recent policy changes, they may sit there and wait because they think the market's going to fall 5% or 10%, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm here to say that the market already fell. Right? Would you guys agree with that? We already have come down.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much we have come down is really dependent upon what price point you're in and what sector you're in. For example, the new development condo sector is down a lot more than the sub 1 million co-op sector. And you guys are probably seeing that right now. And if you look at a 10 million plus super luxury, you're seeing some 35% discounts from the peak in 2015 in that sector. That is not what's going on in the sub $1 million co-op sector, right? That sector is only down maybe 8 to 10%. So my point is that if you have a buyer and that buyer is saying, well, wait a second, I think the market's going down. If you find the place you like, you got to just have a conversation with them that Jason's saying. You're not going to pick this bottom of the market. Price in that 5% into your bid and see what that seller reacts with. You wouldn't be surprised what a seller's going to do in an illiquid market when they need to move property. You know what I'm saying?
Which is awesome. Like the deals that we do right now are ridiculous. They include, and you see on a lot of the buildings we sell, 5 years of common charges paid for. We'll pay transfer tax, mansion tax, mortgage recording tax. We'll pay your move-in fees. I'll take you to dinner. Like they include a lot of things because you can get it. What we have to tell people too, like if you aren't buying a home right now because you think the market is going to be even worse tomorrow, that's like, there's a great quote. It's like, that's like not buying a convertible today because you think it's going to rain tomorrow.
Right.
Right? Like if you're that type of person, then there's 8 billion people on this planet and I don't need to hang out with you. So it's showing people that there are a lot of great opportunities and to go and get the deal. But like what you just said about how come people won't just make those offers, I know the two of us, like it is the most frustrating thing to deal with. And every seller comes to us and they're all super angry. Like, why don't you just get an offer?
Make an offer.
Just get an offer. You showed
Come
it
on.
15 times.
Let's go.
Where's the offer? Even if it's half off, people won't do it because they're nervous about what you're saying. They're like, well, even if I offer 50% off, maybe that'll be market next year and I can get it for an even better price. And I'm going to stay in my rent stabilized 1 bedroom because I'm a New Yorker and I negotiate the price of a bagel. That's then what we have to deal with. So then it becomes so hard. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, it's never easy. And one thing I think that's making it harder is the recent rent regulations that just passed that kind of, in my opinion, is killing the multifamily market. You guys probably have heard about this. I'm going to switch this over to Neil. I want to talk about the recent rent regulations from a legal perspective and who you think that's affecting the most.
Wow.
Nice and easy.
It's affecting everyone. So, my view is when legislators pass a law, you want to try to do a couple of things. You want to have a nice, concise, clear bill, which everyone understands. You want to have buy-in from lots of parties. You want to minimize unintended consequences. You want to hear you don't want to do it for optics. You want to do it because it really helps people. This new rent regulation did not meet any of those criteria as far as I'm concerned. It's so ideal primarily, I'm broker counsel to REBNY. I host a legal hotline every day for REBNY members. Usually we answer, let's say 6 to 10 phone calls a day from REBNY members, about 200 calls a month. In the month of July, we answered 600 calls, 400 of which were directly related to the rent regulations. It has started to wane a little bit, but it has caused mass confusion. Does it apply to brokers? How does it apply to brokers? And then we deal with it from the perspective of the owner, the tenant. Owners are freaking out. I mean, this law is potentially very detrimental to the owner, the individual owner. It limits the amount that you can collect if you don't get paid for the month. It limits the amount that you can collect if you have to bring a tenant to court. Now, I'm all in favor of laws that protect the tenant. I do believe that we have an affordable housing crisis in New York, so I think we have to address it, but there's a better way to address it than this.
Right, and there's a trickle effect with this whole law. I mean, just think about this for a second, guys. If you're an investor, right, and you're looking at any kind of cap rate analysis right now, and you're looking at a place that needs a renovation, a multifamily that needs a reservation, you are not going to be able to raise the rent to get that investment back from your renovation. So you got all these, this is correct, right?
Well, the IAIs.
Right, okay, so you got all of these owners that would have put improvements into the place that the tenant probably would have benefited from, and then maybe raised their rent by $200 or $300. Now they're capped out at 2% or whatever it happens to be. So there's no incentive for the owner to do this. That impacts other industries. That impacts the construction industry. It impacts the contractors industry, the architect industry. So we're starting to see the ripple effect, right? And I'm bringing this up because, Jason, you're connected, right? And this is what I really want to hear. You're connected to the New York State legislature and all that kind of stuff. So piggybacking on the recent rent regulations, is it possible some of this gets rolled back?
Well, I mean, maybe. So just full disclosure. So I'm a member of the Democratic State Committee. I'm a Democratic district leader, and I'll be a delegate to the convention next year. So I know a lot of the elected officials. And so there are two schools of thought right now in Albany. First of all, you're hearing a lot of things about what may happen or bills that are being introduced. Just so everyone understands, there is no fall session. Session doesn't start until January, so anything right now is just posturing. Nothing will happen until January. But there are two schools of thought. School one is that this went too far, and that there should be things like the security deposit should be revisited, prepaying rent should be revisited, maybe even adjustments on the IAIs or MCIs potentially. But there's another school of thought out there that says you should kick the corpse.
Right.
Which means pied-à-terre tax in the next session, or maybe more aggressive moves against the brokerage community. Now, by show of hands, how many people in this room were affected negatively by the new rent law? About every hand almost. And how many people went to Albany or called their legislator to advocate? About 5 people. See, that's a problem. See, I mean, activism works, and part of it is our community and REBNY, frankly, dropped the ball in many ways when it came to the last legislative session, and we were not vocal enough, and we got rolled over.
Did they just not think this was going to pass or something, or did they underestimate this whole?
I mean, Neil might know better. No, I mean, I think the bill came together very quickly. It was over a 3-day period. All of a sudden, this was thrown out. There was conversation for a while about it. But we weren't really a seat at the table. Is it fair to say?
Well, I think what there's, and I wasn't there, but my understanding is that they basically took these 9 different bills. Originally, it was supposed to focus on rent stabilization, and they took these 9 bills in a very short period of time, no public hearing, and they put them all together. They slapped them all together. So there was no expectation that any one individually would necessarily pass. Now they passed all 9 together. But by the way, what happens when you put 9 bills that are drafted by different parties together, different definitions, and so on and so forth? What happens when you do that? Right? They cause a lot of confusion, different definitions. And then I don't think there was an expectation that the governor, quite frankly, would even sign this bill. And then they added a provision that not only made it these bills specific to rent stabilization, but all rentals in New York. There was never an anticipation that they would draw in every rental in New York, but in fact, that's what they did.
And by when you say every rental in New York, you're also talking about co-op proprietary leases?
Correct. It covers an individual owner, shareholder renting out their They're subletting their co-op, condo, and so on.
Listen, you go for the kill shot when you have it, and they had it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And it was a kill shot. And I mean, guys, let's just look at what we've been dealing with here. So since 2015 or so, we've had SALT deductions.
Right.
We have the LLCs, right? We have the recent rent regulation. We have the mansion tax, okay? And we have the pied-à-terre tax that's being discussed that potentially may pass. So, yeah.
And I want to add one other thing. There is a proposal to limit the amount that your commission can be on a rental transaction.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is all regulatory.
Did you guys hear about that? Okay, I didn't hear about that. I'm losing more hair as we speak.
But like, this is not just regulatory. This is statutory. I mean, this is law, right? Like, this is going to be on the books. Like, all these shots that we're taking, you can survive one or two of them.
Yeah.
You add them up, and all of them put together is a major disruption in the industry and major problems for all of us in this room.
Completely agree. And to Jason's point, one thing I will say though is that with respect to that city council bill that tried to limit commissions, REBNY, we were there in full force, and there was well over 1,000 of us. They closed the gates, they wouldn't let us in, and I was never so proud to be a member or part of REBNY as I was that day that we went to the city.
And it worked.
Well, it's
That's
working.
my point.
That's
I
right.
mean, yeah.
But to your point, if this bill is not dead and is still being negotiated, and when we have a call to action again, everyone needs to step up. You can't look to the right and the left and say, oh, my fellow agent is going to go. We all need to go. Not only 1,000 of us, but all 14,000 of us need to be at City Hall and to fight this. Because if they cap our commissions on rentals, what's next? They're going to start our sales commissions, and then they're going to look to my legal fees, and I'm not going to be happy. So we cannot stand for limits on commissions.
I mean, this is very important stuff. And I mean, look, when I went there and I listed all these policy things, you have to understand this is not the same market as it was 4 years ago. Okay, this market is different. There are different things going on. The whole environment in terms of investing and buying and owning and affordability is completely different. And when that happens, buyers will sit back and they're going to adjust and they're going to bid down, and that's what you're experiencing right now. So this, in my opinion, is a policy-driven reset. And I want to shift to Ryan really quick here and ask you the important question. Where do you think we are in this cycle? I mean, it's been 4 years. We're at the bottom of it. Is there a potential light at the end of this tunnel?
I mean, there's three people in every cycle, right? There's the innovator, the imitator, and the idiot. Very much we're dealing with a lot of idiots right now. So I kind of feel like, and now that the media is talking about it, because for the last, the market really started to change for me anyway when we started to see like a lot of softening and tougher deals in 2015. So for me, I've been dealing with this for both of us for 4 years, right? Like in 2012, kind of 11, 12, 13, 14 was like a good run. We had lines for open houses. We were going to best and finals on things. There was new developments were selling out really quickly. There was good demand. People were happy about buying real estate. There was a lot going on, even if at the time it felt like it was still hard. Right? In hindsight, it was a good time. And then 2015 happened and things started to get harder, which was a big point for me and my team to start to diversify. So in like 2015, I saw that it was really hard to sell a sell like a $4 million 2-bedroom facing a brick wall in Chelsea. And so we went and opened up an office in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and started going hard on the Brooklyn market. And that now has gotten a bit tougher. So now we went to Long Island City hard this year and have 3 big projects and are building a team out there. But now that people are talking about the market being hard, it's taken 4 years. Now that it's in the New York Times, someone sent me a Bloomberg article this morning that said Manhattan home prices sliding. Like, yeah, for the last 4, like, where have you been? Now that people are talking about it, now what we're actually seeing is at our listings, and it always starts at the high end, right? We're doing bigger deals now than I've ever done before in my entire career because people are coming through and they're saying, wow, so the market's really tough. I can get a good deal now, right? Like, yeah, you can. Like, I'm going to make an offer. I'm like, good, do it.
Right now.
Do it. Great. And they're like, I'm going to make an offer that's going to be low. And I'm like, okay, scare me. But now those people, like the media is now telling people that New York's, for sale. And I think that that's going to help absorb a lot of this stuff. And then, next year politically will be an interesting one. But I think by 2021, we should be kind of back in a spot where a lot of inventory has been absorbed, a lot of condo inventory that hasn't sold. will either convert to rental or just be absorbed in some way. And then we'll be right back to dealing with these people who are like, oh, I missed the bottom. Now I don't want to do it because the market's going too high.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Jason, where do you think we are in this cycle?
I mean, I agree with Ryan. I actually thought we were pulling out of it at the end of the summer. It was really active and really busy, but there's a lot of downward pressure on it right now, both from a governmental oversight, regulatory environment, and also just psychology is still negative and may stay negative till November 2020, perhaps. But I think as brokers, like, it's not that good, but like, suck it up, guys. Like, this is our business. Like, figure out a way to do it. You know, like, one thing Ryan's done commercial building sales. I've done commercial building sales. Like, figure out what's moving. Figure out where you can. Don't sell things that face brick walls. Like, look at what is trading in the market. And unfortunately, you have to put blinders on to a degree and not fret all day in the office with your feet up and go, fuck, the market sucks. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, focus on what sells and go figure out a way to sell it.
Okay, so let's pivot then, because I got your next question over here for listing pitches, right? I mean, you're very good at your listing pitch. You got the whole spiel down. So what tips or a couple of techniques could you tell these guys to do to maybe up their game a little bit?
Well, I think the thing is, when you go into someone especially cold, and you can have all the facts and figures and data, but so will the next three people that come right behind you. So I always think that the most important thing is to make a human connection with that person. One quick technique that I do is I always study their books very carefully. The books on people's shelves tell you a whole lot about them. It tells you what topics they're interested, what their politics might be or not be. One quick example, I got a townhouse listing recently, and the owner had out 3 Bruce Springsteen books, and I'm a big Springsteen fan. I mean, I don't even think we talked about the listing or the price. We just talked about Springsteen for a half hour, then they signed the listing agreement. I mean, Ryan could have come in with a marching band afterwards, and unless he knew the words to Jungle Land, he probably wasn't going to get the listing.
I think I lost that one.
But like, those are the kinds of human connections that really help you stand out and make you differentiate. And then when you have that kind of connection, then you can do business with that person.
Ryan, any tips for nailing the listing?
Yeah, you know, I agree with you. It's about making that personal connection. But I like to sit down with people and ask them as many questions as I possibly can, because there's nothing that a seller likes doing more than hearing themselves talk.
Yeah.
Like, you have to remember that on any new relationship, right? People love hearing themselves speak, and if you ask them a lot of, sorry, this sounds like it's not working. If you ask them a lot of questions, even if you say nothing by the end of kind of that first engagement, you will build trust with that person because they will have heard their own voice for a considerable period of time, and it makes them feel good and it makes them like you more, right? So just as like a quick little, you wanted a tip, that's like a psychology human tip. When you go into a listing pitch, don't be annoying, but ask as many questions as you can. Be as engaged and enthusiastic as you can, no matter what. Also have to know your stuff, but I see even agents on my team when I'm trading them, they don't ask any questions. They kind of try to talk, or they get nervous, and so they kind of give their pitch or their speech, and it completely backfires because then all you do is end up doing all the talking, and then the seller didn't get to tell you their story about the babies and the bathrooms and why they picked orange for the kitchen. You know, like they want to tell you all about that. So it helps build trust in us, which is a hard thing to do, right? Not a lot of people trust real estate agents. And that's really what I try to go for. I go for that trust, go for that authenticity, you know, and then kill them with my smile.
Yeah, no, that's the way. I mean, listen, you got to make that connection, right? You got to kill them with a smile, and they got to go with who they like, right? I mean, they're probably going to go with who they like. One thing I would just say is that sellers, they care about 2 things, right? They care about price and time. You know, what are you going to get me? How long is it going to take? That's generally what they like to see. So one tip I would just give, even though I'm not transactional anymore, I was back in a previous life, is set their expectations and do yourself a favor. Set their expectations for if you need to get a price reduction down the road.
Yeah.
Okay, so sit down with them.
Prenup.
And listen, even
this
though,
might not work out.
Let me ask you a question, a little audience participation. How many times when you've been on a listing pitch, and just raise your hand if the answer is yes, how many times on a listing pitch did a seller say, when should I consider reducing my price? Okay, a couple, okay. Most sellers don't like to ask that question, right? Because they just want you to sell and get the most money, but deep down inside, they're thinking, when the hell should I consider reducing my price? And I think the standard protocol is like, all right, after a month,
right? After a month, 3-4 weeks, we don't have good showings. That's the market's way of saying it's wrong. But the second one, the second price reduction, go to your local system. I don't care what it is, if it's UrbanDigs or something else. Go find out what the local 2-bedroom, 2-bath Chelsea co-op days on market is in that sector. And if it happens to be 82 days, then the answer to the question is, hey, Mr. Seller, if we don't have a deal in the first 4 weeks, that's one price reduction. And if we don't have a deal on day 82, that's when we should probably consider the second price. And if you guys could have that conversation at the first substantive contact, right? And if that conversation sets you up for a second price reduction on day 82, and that results in you getting a deal, then you use data to have a conversation to manage your expectations and expedite your deal. And that's kind of what this whole thing's all about. So just wanted to throw that out there. Ryan, I'm going to stick with you one more time. New developments. I think that is like the biggest value play right now. I think it's the biggest. I've been on the new development train for about 8 months now. I think buyers are getting great deals. It's not surprising to see with the concessions somewhere between 12 and 20% off when you look at price cuts and then the concessions.
Sure.
What do you see going on in new development?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a buyer of real estate, you want to buy something from someone who really, 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 really wants to sell. And no one wants to sell more than someone who has construction lenders, investors, equity partners down their back to get their money back. You know, you can love another apartment all you want, but if it's a resale and the only reason they're selling is because they had a baby and they want to upgrade their life, like, that person is never going to give you the same type of deal. So, you know, the new development game right now for buyers is a pretty good one. And it's a good one that you can actually, most buyers are winning in. Now, it's not true for every new development, right? There's still lots of new development projects, and I have a few of them, not all of them, sadly, but I have a few of them that are in great locations, that are really well priced, where we're really not negotiating. And then we have a lot, that are in other locations that are saturated with other inventory, and we have to negotiate a lot, right? We have a lot. And what I also try to show buyers, and and try to show sellers as well, is just use history, whether it's UrbanDigs data or whatever else you use, and just say, listen, this is where pricing was last year, and year before, and year before, right? This is where it was in 1994. Like, this is so you know what you're buying. Here's the history of the marketplace. Here's the kind of deals we were doing 5 years ago. Here's what you can get now. And it never hurts to make an offer and just to present an opportunity, because you just don't know. And most real estate agents, especially the ones on the sell side, are so nervous about getting fired, they won't push. Most of my business, like the way I built my business, was being really like the second and third agent on a lot of new development projects. And it wasn't until maybe 4 years ago that I started doing ground up new development, because people didn't think about me that way. But I would, developers would reach out and say, listen, my agents aren't selling. I need someone who's going to be aggressive. And it wasn't the agent's fault. They were so nervous about being fired that they ended up getting fired anyway, because they just weren't aggressive. And I would go into all of my developers and all of my clients, and I tell them to their face, just so you know, I do not work for you. I work for the deal, 100%. If you're hiring me, we're getting this sold. I'm not going to make you feel good. I'm not going to give you fluffy feedback. I'm not going to tell you they loved it, but they're going to come back for a second showing if they're really not. Like, if your apartment sucks and we need to sell it for $1 million less, I'm going to tell you that, and you can cry, and I will hold you dearly. But I have no time to waste, and you'd be surprised. Like, the last couple years in the new development game, that works really, really well. Like, brutal, blunt honesty, because it costs way too much to hold. So if you're a buyer, you're working with buyers right now, new development is an amazing place to get great deals.
Right.
And you see it. Like, we're launching a building tonight. I am the second broker. It was called the Chamberlain on the Upper West Side. Quadrum is the developer. We renamed it West End at 87th because we did a poll of people and said, hey, what do you think about the Chamberlain? And they thought that was someone that worked at a church. And so we gave it a name that would tell people where it is. We adjusted price points, and we're paying all monthly, so you live for free for 5 years. Right? 3 bedrooms start at $3.5 million. Our comp at a lot of much bigger buildings are $2 million higher than that. 4 bedrooms start at $4 million for new construction. The comps are much, much higher than that. It's a great deal.
And you're also addressing the biggest problem that people had the last time it was on the market,
monthlies,
which is the monthlies were really high there. And so that's what smart what Ryan I think is doing, is he's addressing that with what they're offering now.
I'm trying not to get it. Right? I go in there being as honest as possible, and I was like, listen, your prices are too high, your monthlies are too egregious. If I'm going to take this on, you need to pay everyone's monthlies for 5 years. And they said, that's a line that's going to cost us $30 million. I'm like, you shouldn't have built the building. Like, so what do you want from me? But I gave them the complete strategy, everything we would do, and I said, we're the ones who are gonna get it done, but this is what I need from you if we're gonna partner on this. They went and interviewed everybody else, and I just wrote it off, and then they came back and they said, I think we have to go with you. Like, unfortunately, I think you do.
Right. And it's like opposite day. You do the opposite of what you can. It's gonna win it, you know? Jason?
I was just, I wanted, the idea, two thoughts that particularly the idea and talking to agents so much, which is what I do all day long, is I frequently stop talking, listen.
Yeah.
Listen. And the other thing, and I think this is really important, you're so right, I frequently say, you don't pay me to tell you what you want to hear, you pay me to tell you what you need to hear. And whether, and that's the truth. And so I think as a body, you agents you need to be able to do that. You're not getting paid to sugarcoat things. Be honest with people, tell them the truth. And I think that usually helps, and it usually works out, and it helps the message when you say, again, you're not paying me to just be a cheerleader. That's not what you're paying me to do. And I think it's really important that you do that.
Right.
It's also causing a lot of, that's what is part of the problem with the market, is that people are just listing things for pricing that just doesn't make sense today. They're letting it sit there for 6 months and then a year, because listing agents don't want to get fired, and so they'll just tell the sellers whatever they want to hear, and they want to have the listing because maybe they'll get directs and it looks good on their page, and they'll just keep it up there, and then it becomes an active comp issue where sellers will then say, well, they're on the market for this, and it's like, well, but they're not going to sell there, and it's this thing, and it hurts us more than anything.
And they'll drink the Kool-Aid too, because they don't want to feel like they had it wrong. They'll go out to the other brokers and they'll try to defend their price. And I mean, it's insane. You can't have an argument. I just had it this morning on my way over here with someone who's $4 million overpriced on a townhouse on East 67th Street. The pricing's ridiculous, but they're sitting there defending it. You can't talk to someone like that. It's just going to sit. And it ruins it for the rest of us too, by the way, because what Ryan said, because the active comp is a killer.
Yeah, and I mean, look, the market dictates price, and if something is not selling, it's either a product problem, a price problem, or a market problem. We happen to have a market problem and price problems.
Yeah.
Usually it's not a product problem, but most of the time if something is not selling, it's the price. So, Neil, we're getting towards the end here. I want to ask you the environment right now, the environment for buyers and sellers from a legal perspective, as well as banks. I know you do some business with banks. Is there anything you can tell us what's happening there?
So from a bank perspective, things are unbelievable. I mean, interest rates are just historically at lows, but they've been for so long, but we cannot close them fast enough. We are so inundated with work, which is great. Refis it's tremendous, and so long may they wave.
Right.
With respect to purchase and sale, we're busy. I can tell you that there is no easy deal. Just every deal is difficult to do, and we're busy in the $1 to $2 million range, I would say, more than anything. But it just feels like we're just the amount of work that we have to do to get them to the finish line is just very dramatic. And so it's good to be busy. I'm really happy about that. On the purchase and sale side, it feels like there's nothing easy anymore.
Is there anything? Let me just say, is there anything agents can do for buyers or sellers to prepare them for a smoother legal transaction, knowing that it's a bumpy market and the last thing you need is a bumpy legal process?
Sure. So a couple of things. I mean, it sounds, and I'm sure most people do this, but be ready for that offer. So make sure your team is in place well before you have an accepted offer. Your mortgage person, your attorney, if you're going to do an inspection, be prepared for that. All the due diligence materials, folks, that I'm going to be asking for an offering plan, financials, the ability to go review the minutes and all of those things. It should not be a surprise, but yet, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but you'd be shocked at when we have an accepted offer, and now it's like you're shocked that I'm asking you for these things. So just be prepared and set expectations. Again, don't tell folks what they want to hear. Tell them the realities, and because that's what we're going to do, and it makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, time is a deal killer when it comes to the attorney process. And I mean, if it's not done in 3, 4, 5 days, then you got something going on there. So you need to make sure that happens in 3, 4, 5 days, especially in this market.
Okay, last question for Jason and Ryan here. Agent business growth tips. Can you guys mention one or two things that you think these agents could be doing today or even changing about their business today that would make them more money in 1 or 2 years from now? Any general business growth tips?
Two things are, a lot of brokers go to broker events, which are great for education. But this is New York City. There are 4 events a night that are good to go to for networking purposes. I think you pound the pavement and don't leave till you've given out all the business cards in your wallet. And that's one. And the second thing I would do is very highly targeted, thought out mail. For me, works very well. It takes a long time to put something like that together, but it's worth the effort.
Direct mailing. So
it's like very like hyper targeted.
Right, but farming, just to be clear, farming, you're not going to see an instant gratification response.
So like, for example, if you do your research and you notice that 2 bedroom, 2 baths, the G line in this building will move at an average days of 35 days on the market when everything else is 122 days because you've seen the last 4 sales, you got to hit that G line. I mean, very, very targeted mail.
Interesting.
That works, and that can work within days.
Right, gotcha. So you look at the quickest selling units in the
Well, that's just one example. There are lots of different ways to do it, but it does work. But it just takes a lot of, it's not just like, hey, let's just mail to like East 58th Street and see what happens.
And for those people that just do a mailing once or twice a building?
It's a waste of space.
Okay.
Waste of time.
Ryan.
You should write a book called Hit That G Line.
There's so many things I could say right now, and I'm
That
not
would
going
be
to say.
I'm so excited about that. That was awesome. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I agree with both of those, right? You've got to meet as many people as you possibly can, right? Every single day. Like, that's a rule in my office. You have to meet I don't like people if they don't do it, but you have to meet like 5 new people every day if you can. Like this room for me is meeting new people, right? Because you just never know. And the best deals I've ever done have come through the craziest degrees of separation, where it all started, where I went to that damn thing I didn't want to go to because I was tired. But I met 3 people and I got their information, and he knew someone and she introduced me to this, and then I fall, and then blah, 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 blah. So if you're not out there meeting people every day, then this is a people business, right? Real estate is our widget. Like, I don't build houses. I'm not a developer, I'm not a contractor, I'm not a plumber, I'm not an architect, I'm not an interior designer. Real estate is just a widget, right? We are until these homes figure out how to buy and sell themselves to each other, which I think Zillow is trying to figure out how to do. Then it's just about the people and just about kind of building those relationships. But I'd say too, the market's strange enough that I think it's about diversifying kind of what you sell. If what you've been selling that worked well for the last couple of years isn't selling as much this year, like you said, right? Don't complain about it being a tough market. There are other markets that are moving. Like I went to Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. Opened up an office in Bed-Stuy, and the Wall Street Journal wrote an article against me about it. But I went there and I was like, listen, there's good market share. Built up a team really quickly and started doing, $1 to $2 million investment sale properties in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn in 2015 because I saw that the market in the city was going to be slow, and I didn't want to hurt my volume or income. I wanted to sell as much as possible. And it's been great business. From that came other new developments and other people that we met who then do things back in the city, and it's kind of that all over the place. I'd also say, focus, there's cameras everywhere here. I do a vlog, right, on YouTube. My vlogger was detained. He could not get into this building. There's big rules here.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I built my business with a lot of help from a television show on Bravo starting in 2012, and I'm totally open about that. It really, really helped in terms of my ability to open doors. But the last 2 years have not been defined by Bravo for me. They've really been defined by YouTube and the power of YouTube, and it is free. Like, you'll actually get paid to put stuff on YouTube if you do it. And to put out more content and to get to know people. Like, we sell things now through YouTube and through Instagram, but you have to do the content, you have to focus on it, you have to do it, and people are searching now through Instagram and through YouTube to purchase things because it's a visual medium before they go to Zillow, StreetEasy, and your website and Google. It's crazy, and that's where the market's going as the buyers get younger and younger and younger. So focus on that. And then I think, that's my wife trying to FaceTime with the baby. Hold on, let's say hi. Hi, baby.
You wanted to call somebody, so.
She wanted to call. Okay, Zena, say hi to everyone in the room.
Hey, Zena.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not allowed to not answer a call from you, otherwise I'll deal with it later. So I love you, bye. Okay, bye.
Ryan's maybe looked really bad because my wife called.
If I don't, and she's great. Like, she showed me the knife. So, last but not least, you can always take my course, ryanserhant.com/course, the greatest sales course in the history of the world.
Awesome.
Everyone thinks that being a lawyer is just a lawyer, but I started my firm, we're going to be 25 years in January. I literally had no clients when I started my firm, and my partner and I, we decided we were going to have a breakfast, lunch, or dinner every day. It didn't matter what industry they were in, just to meet people. But most people think that people are just successful because they're successful. But if you listen to these two guys who are unbelievably successful, what are they saying? They're working every day. They're not successful by accident. They are successful because they continue to do this every day. And I think that's the biggest takeaway here, is that it doesn't matter how successful you are, every day you have to work it. Every day you have to work it.
Great stuff.
All right, guys, we got 2 audience questions. I'm going to let you go right here, okay? Number one, I think this resonates to a lot of people out there. So, how should price adjustments be dealt with in today's buyer's market? I have a 1-bedroom listed. It's priced approximately $625. I priced slightly lower than the other active listings and market comps, and prices have been adjusting to my listing price. It's been on the market for 5 weeks. I seem to have interest but no offers. How much time would you recommend sitting in the market before adjusting this price? Easy one.
I'm a big believer in search box pricing. You look at any listing that I have, I don't have anything at $625. Like that's not a search box. Like, and I tell every seller this, right? You got to be at $599, and it's just because everybody starts on their phone now. It's at every price point. Like if I'm priced at $11 million, I'm dealing with someone that is basically forced to look up to $16 million, right? Like so then it's just imagine any shopping experience. If you're shopping and you think you're in your budget, but then you see really pretty shoes over there that are a little bit more expensive, all of a sudden what you thought you could afford, yeah, it looks nice, but those look really nice. And that's what Street Easy's done to us. So you've got to price within search boxes, no matter what, so that you can be a heavyweight fighter in a lightweight fight. Otherwise, at $625, I'm a lightweight fighter in a heavyweight fight, because people are forced to look up to $700, and in that $700 bracket, right, $700,000 bracket, I've got things that were at $800 and $900 last year that haven't sold, that have now come down. So the competition's too tough, right? You got to price within those search brackets, and I would recommend that they adjust that to $599 right now.
And the comps are probably those are active comps, which are probably high and sitting.
Right, and I guess my only answer to this would be, again, number one, the first price reduction should be with that 4-week mark, all right? If you're in the market for 4 weeks, you don't have a deal in place or traffic's slow, I think there's an automatic price reduction that needs to happen, because that's enough time for the market to tell you that your price is wrong. The second price reduction, again, go look in your system and go look at what the Chelsea 1-bedroom co-op market's doing, and if it happens to be 82 or 94 or 102, that's your clue as to where that second price reduction should come in.
Yeah, no, I'll also say, because we have to deal with this a lot. There's other things you can do to game the system, right? So yes, it's price, but if your seller isn't amenable to a price reduction right away, but you're going to lead into it and build into it. You can remember, everything starts on the phone for the most part, right? Everything starts on the computer. It's all about those thumbnails. So you can take the apartment off the market for 3 days. Go off market for 3 days. Anyone that said save that listing, that likes it, is then going to email you and say, oh, did it sell? What happened? All of a sudden now I have a showing, because I took it off the market. Right? You can readjust one photo. If you don't have a night photo, go take one night photo. Now have that be your main thing, make your lead photo, and people will come through and say, oh, I didn't know this listing was out there. It's the first time I've seen it. Just because they like that photo better. It has nothing to do with the real estate. So figuring out little ways to kind of play with the system goes a long way. Pricing within search boxes, kind of switching those photos around, even changing the description around. You'll get people to re-engage.
That's interesting. That's really good stuff. All right, second question. I think it's a good one for Jason. What do you think the New York State legislators will do in January on the Tenant Protection Act? Will they close loopholes? Will they repeal anything, or potentially nothing at all?
So it won't happen until June, because January through April will be the the budget. So nothing will happen immediately, but it'll be talked about. This will be like an April through June conversation where things will, until then it's just posturing. April through June is when things will get real.
Gotcha.
With this bill. And I think that if our community responds the way we've responded to the city council legislation, I think we can have a much more favorable outcome. If we sit back and are playing defense, there's a really good chance that we'll get rolled over.
Yeah, and I mean, just think about this for a second, guys. The policy's already happened, all right? It's already done. So if you happen to be one of those buyers that buys when this market's depressed from policy, and next April, May, or June, that policy is changed, reversed, tweaked, whatever, in favor of the way it was before, you should start to see a reset in the market.
I mean, it'll only get tweaked, just like rent, vacancy decontrol is not going to come back. That's gone. But I think our market can survive that. It's the other elements that you layer on top of it that where it becomes very problematic.
Great stuff. Guys, thank you so much for coming here.
Jason, can you tell people who to contact, and should it be a local, should they do it through
Good
the
idea.
So the way, I mean, you probably work with your managers and your firm and also REBNY, but if you, as an individual, I mean, you're an independent contractor, you should contact your local state assembly person, your local state senator, and your local city council person on the city council bill.
REBNY can help with that.
And yeah, REBNY has a very good team there that can help direct you to the right person too.
Awesome stuff, guys. Thank you so much. We get a round of applause for these guys right here. We got new Garfinkel, we got this amazing Ryan Serhant. This is Noah John. We're from UrbanDigs. We're talking Manhattan, and we'll catch you next time.